In today's session, we're just going to know about principles of management with two approaches and span of management. Before getting into today's topic, let's know about our worksheet. Today in our worksheet, I am bringing you two case studies. The first is Mr. Sachin was working in Axe Limited, a company manufacturing air purifiers. He found that the profit has started declining from the last 6 months. Profit has an implication for the survival of the firm. So he analyzed the business environment to find out the reason for this decline. Identify the level of management at which Mr. Sachin was working and justify your answer. Your second, Mr. Rishi's father has a good business of iron and steel. Rishi wants to go to USA for his MBA, but his father thinks that he should join the business on the basis of emerging trends. Do you think that Rishi's father should send his son to USA? Give three reasons in support of your answer. Now let me get into your topic, principles of management. Here in principles of management, I'm splitting a topic into two, where let's know what is the meaning of principle and then continue along with principles of management. Principle is a fundamental statement of truth that provides guidance to thought and action. Any work that we are doing in our daily life, we plan and then execute it as an action. That we say it as a kind of principle. Let's move on to principles of management. Principles of management are broad and general guidelines for managerial decision making and behavior. That is, they guide the practice of management. Nature of principles of management. They are given it under 7 headings. First is universal applicability. That is, they can be applied in all types of organizations, business as well as non-business, small as well as large enterprises. General guidelines are guidelines to action and decision making. However, they do not provide ready-made solutions as the business environment is ever changing and dynamic. Formed by practice and experimentation. They are developed after thorough researches and they work on the basis of experience of the manager. These are flexible, which can be adapted and modified by the practicing manager as per the demand of the situations, as they are man-made principles. The fifth is mainly behavioral. Since the principles aim in influencing complex human behavior, they are behavioral in nature. Anything as cause and effects should be always faced. So that has been brought as your next point, cause and effect relationship. They intend to establish relationship between cause and effect so that they can be used in similar situations. First, any kind of situations are brought, they should know what is the basic thing which has brought this problem. Once after that, we should know how can it be affecting our organization, how can it be solved. All those things helps you to modify your management. Contingent. Their applicability depends upon the prevailing situation at a particular point of time. Ending out with a definition, according to Terry, management principles are capsules of selected management wisdom to be used carefully and discreetly. Now let's directly move into your topic, starting with Taylor's scientific management. Frederick Winslow Taylor was a person who within a very short duration rose from the rank of an ordinary apprentice to chief engineer in medieval steel company USA. Taylor conducted a number of experiments and came to conclusion that workers were producing much less than the targeted standard task. Also, both the parties, that is management and the workers, are hostile towards each other. He gave a number of suggestions to solve this problem and correctly propounded the theory of scientific management to emphasize the use of scientific approach in managing an enterprise instead of hit and trial method. For this contribution, he is well known as the father of scientific management. Scientific management attempts to eliminate waste to ensure maximum production at minimum cost. In 1909, Taylor introduced the principle of scientific management. In this theory, he proposed that by optimizing and simplifying jobs, productivity would increase. Taylor also believed that all workers were motivated by wages. So he published the idea of fair payment with fair work. In other words, if a worker did not complete his task, he did not deserve to be paid as much as another worker who was highly productive. Taylor is a mechanical engineer. He tried to improve industrial efficiency. Taylor is considered as the father of scientific management. He was the first well-known management consultant and director of the company. This theory is just a slight way because it applies only to the factory. Majority of his theory is on between workers and machines. Now let's get into principles of scientific management, where he has been explained this with 6 points, starting with science, not rule of thumb. There should be scientific study and analysis of each element of a job in order to replace the old rule of thumb approach or hit and miss method. We should be constantly experimenting to develop new techniques which makes the work much simpler, easier and quicker. Any work which has been informed by someone, we cannot just directly do it. It should be definitely experimented. It should be tried by someone so that we will not have any kind of errors in the work. The second one is harmony, not discordant. It implies that there should be mental revolution on part of managers and workers in order to respect each other's role and eliminating any class conflicts to realize organizational objectives. Each of us, a superior or a worker who is carrying on with the work, should have a proper relationship so that each of us will have our own principle to be maintained. The third one is cooperation, not individualism. It is an extension of the principle of harmony, not discord, whereby constructive suggestions of workers should be adopted and they should not go on strike as both management and workers share responsibility and perform together. In case if there is a problem saying that a worker who has been producing chocolates will not be able to conclude his work because he is not feeling well, his superior should be able to listen to the worker and there should be some kind of suggestions which could be listened to the person who says. The fourth one is development of each and every person to his or her greatest efficiency and prosperity. It implies development of competency of all persons of an organization after their scientific selection and assigning work suited to their temperament and abilities. This will increase productivity by utilizing the skills of the workers to the fullest possible extent. Your last one is maximum, not restricted output. Both the management and workers should try to achieve maximum output in place of restricted output. This will be beneficial to both the parties. Maximum output will result in higher wages for the worker and greater profit for the management. Increased productivity is also in the interest of consumers and the society at large. Now, before I move on to the next topic as modern management, let's know what are the advantages and the disadvantages of Taylor's theory. Under the Taylor's theory, it has both advantages and disadvantages. The advantages of this theory is that the condition of management are clearly defined. Cause of the manager's job becomes more easier. Secondly, this theory will improve the efficiency of the employees. On the other hand, Taylor's theory also have disadvantages, which are this theory is comparing the performance with each other. It will lead to discontent. Secondly, this theory, without considering the need and requirements of the employees to treat them as machine, they will only look onto what the productivity is being done, and they will not look onto the humanity. They don't have any kind of humanity towards any human. Now let's move on to the next one. Fayol's principle of management. Henry Fayol was born in Istanbul in 1841. When he was 19 years old, he started as an engineer at a major mining company in France. He eventually became a director, but this time the mining company employs over 1,000 people in time. Over the years, he began to develop Fayol considered the 14 most important principles of management. Essentially, it explains how managers should organize and interact with staff. Henry Fayol got degree in mining engineering and joined French mining company in 1860 as an engineer. He rose to the position of managing director in 1988 when the company was on the average of bankrupts. He accepted the challenge, and by using rich and broad administrative experience, he turned the fortune of the company. For his contribution, he is well known as father of general management. Let's move on to principles of management developed by Fayol. As said earlier, there are 14 principles, starting with your first one, division of work. Work is divided into small tasks, and each work is done by trained specialists, which leads to greater efficiency, specialization, increased productivity, and reduction of unnecessary waste and movements. Second is authority and responsibility. Authority means power to take decision, and responsibility means obligation to complete the job assigned on the time. Authority and responsibility should go hand in hand. Mere responsibility without authority makes an executive less interested in discharging his duties. Similarly, giving authority without assigning responsibility makes him arrogant, and there is a fear of misuse of power. A third is discipline. It is the obedience of an organizational rule by the subordinate. Discipline requires good supervisors at all levels, clear and fair agreements, at judicious application of penalty. A fourth is unity of command. It implies that every worker should receive order and instruction from one superior only. Otherwise, it will create confusion, conflict, disturbance, and overlapping of activities. The fifth is unity of direction. Each group of activities having the same objective must have one head and one plan. This ensures unity of action and coordination. Both of these words are similar. Let's know what are the difference between unity of command and unity of direction. First, starting with meaning. Unity of command means that it implies a subordinate should receive orders and instructions only from one boss. Unity of direction means one head, one plan for a group of activities having similar objectives. Unity of command's nature is it is related to the functioning of personnel. Unity of direction's nature is it is related to the functioning of departments or organization as a whole. Unity of command's necessity. It is necessary for fixing responsibility of each subordinate. Unity of direction's necessity is it is necessary for sound organization. Advantage of unity of command is it avoids conflicts, confusions, and chaos. Advantage of unity of direction is it avoids duplication of efforts and wastage of resources. Result of unity of command is it leads to better superior subordinate relationship. Result for unity of direction is it leads to smooth running of the enterprises. Now continuing with your points. Your sixth point, subordinates of individual interest to general interest. The interest of an organization should take priority interest over any one of the individual employee. Any employee in a company will be concerned only to fill his pocket. He should also feel that once in case if he is supposed to fill his pocket, the organization also should run in a profit. Only if the profit is earned by the organization, he will be the organization will be, they will be able to satisfy their own pockets with they will be able to give us also the pockets filled. A seventh point is remuneration of employees. The overall pay and compensation should be fair to both the employees and the organization. The wages should encourage the workers to work more and better. Your eighth is centralization and decentralization. Centralization means concentration of decisions which is being made from authority in few hands at the top level. Decentralization means evenly distribution of power at every level of management. Centralization means it is only to the top level, and decentralization means it is at every level of management. Both should be completely centralized or completely balanced, as no organization can be completely either centralized nor it cannot be completely decentralized. Ninth is scalar chain. The formal line of authority between superiors and subordinates from the highest to the lowest rank is known as scalar chain. This chain should be violated, but in emergency, employees at same level can contact through gangplank by informing the superiors. Your 10th is order. A place for everything and everyone should be in its designated place. People and material must be suitable in their place which is appropriate for the time and for the maximum efficiency. Equity. The working environment of an organization should be free from all forms of discrimination. In case let's start with discrimination of religion, language, caste, sex, belief, or basis of unity, or any command which is being given through your direction or with nationality. All these discriminations should be eliminated, and principles of justice and fair play should be followed. No workers should be unduly favored or punished. The 12th is stability of personnel. After being selected and appointed by rigorous procedures, the selected person should be kept at the post for a minimum period decided to show results. Initiative. The worker should be encouraged to develop and carry out their plan for improvements. Initiative means taking the first step with self-motivation. It is thinking out and executing the plan. Your last point is esprit de corps. Management should promote team spirit, unity, and harmony among employees. Management should promote a teamwork. So these were the principles which are being given by FAIL. There are a few advantages, and let's talk about let's conclude out FAIL's principles. FAIL's philosophy has advantages. First, in addition to workers' division of work, work should be divided so that the workers specializing in a particular job but also improves the work efficiency. Secondly, there should be a balance of power and responsibilities between management and workers. In addition, he stressed that all staff fairness, kindness, and justice in the organization should be followed. By the action, it promotes a friendly atmosphere between superiors and subordinates. Material is disposed of idea that he came all should be properly placed and where everything should be. Loyalty and dedication to the members of this organization should be followed. If the employees are loyal, dedicated, their time to improve the organization's management also will be looking for afters. So their employees' welfare and well-being. However, there are some shortcomings in Fayol's theory. The drawback is that he is divided into 6 categories and divided into 5 categories for business activities, which implements these into 14 points. Another is that when it comes to equity, whether workers receive fair and kind attention to workers, whether workers receive fair and kind payment, and whether it is regular. It also did not pay enough attention to the workers. Managers ordered materials without consulting staff responsible for this work. Without proper consultation, all the principles were being done. Some theorists also call this as inconsistence, very open policy, lack of organizations to be used. Let's have a comparison of Fayol's and Taylor's principles of management. Nature of research. According to Fayol, he developed the theory of functional management or management process. Taylor's, he developed the concept of scientific management. Fayol was concerned with the principle of managing persons' efficiency. Taylor's principle and technique were concerned with workers and management's efficiency. Fayol focused this and had this as a discipline which is being to be followed at top level of management. Taylor designed principle for lower level of management. Fayol focused improving overall administration by observing certain principles in his mind. Taylor, for him, increasing productivity through work simplification was the main focus. Fayol developed personality for a researcher and a practitioner and was also called as father of general management. Taylor developed the personality of scientist and was called as father of scientific management. His Fayol's main contribution was to produce a systematic theory of management with the help of 14 principles of general management, whereas Taylor, he provided a basis of accomplishment on production with the help of scientific techniques and management. Fayol's human element, he gave due emphasis on human element like suggesting principles like equality, initiative, fair remunerations, etc. Taylor ignored the human elements and emphasized more on increasing productivity. Fayol's principles were flexible. Taylor's principles were rigid in his approach and he felt that there should be no deviations from the fixed standard. Fayol's principles are applicable to business as well as non-business organizations, that is, it can be applicable universally. Taylor's principles are applicable to production and manufacturing, that is, are applicable to specific situations alone. Now, both of these two persons have contributed to the development of management science. In these two, pioneers in the field of management science contributions were reviewed for Taylor and Fayol's management job theory. Especially, they were complementary. They have achieved a key staff and management at all levels of the problems is personal success. Whether it is the application of scientific method to this problem, Taylor's work is mainly from the operational level, from the bottom up, while Fayol focused on the general manager and worked down. But they are very different careers. A kind of expression They are different from each other in the following aspects. Taylor looked at the management from a regulatory point of view and trying to improve the management level of efficiency. He developed the theory of moving upwards. On the other hand, Fayol, senior management level down analysis and worked on management. Therefore, Fayol can afford a wider field of vision than Taylor. Taylor said his concept of scientific management, while Fayol describes his method as general theory of management. Now moving on to span of management. Span of management refers to the number of subordinates who can be managed efficiently by a superior. Simply, the manager having the group of subordinates who report him directly is called as span of management. The span of management is related to two levels. One is horizontal level, which is there is a wide and narrow span of management. With a wider span, there will be less hierarchical level, and thus the organizational structure would be flatter. Whereas with a narrow span, hierarchical level increases, hence the organizational structure would be tall. Both these organizational structures have their advantages and disadvantages, but however, tall organizational structure imposes more challenges. Since the span is narrow, which means less number of subordinates under one superior, requires more managers to be employed in the organization. Thus, it would be very expensive in the term of salaries to be paid. With more levels of hierarchy, the communication suffers drastically. It takes a lot of time to reach the appropriate points, and hence the action gets delayed. Lack of coordination and control. Because of this, the operating staff is far away from the top level management. The management is very slow once while in case if it has been following out the structure. The major advantage of using this structure is that cross communication gets facilitated. That is, operative staff communicating with the top management is very possible. Also, the change is very immediately done. The chance of promotion increases with the availability of several job options. In the case of flatter organizational structure, where the span is wider, leads to a more complex supervisory relationship between the manager and the subordinate. It will be very difficult for a superior to manage a large number of subordinates at a time, and also may not be able to listen to them all effectively. However, the benefit of using wider span of management is that the number of managers gets reduced in the hierarchy, and thus the expense in the term of remuneration is saved. Also, the subordinates feel relaxed and develop their interdependent spirit in a free work. So that's it with today's topic. Thank you.